But the last 13 days have been kind of extreme.
Just in, the total Bitcoin ETF trading volume has surpassed 4.5 billion today. And it's undeniable that BlackRock, Fidelity, and institutions are actively buying Bitcoin.
You look at the inflows that you've seen, and is there anything unusual?
I mean, we see visually the amount of accumulation happening as we're seeing hundreds of millions of dollars, almost $1 billion in both the last 2 days of net inflows.
Yeah, I mean, these things they took in tons of money. Like, they launched in early January. They took in tons of money in March and April. Obviously, they took in a ton of money right when they launched. But the last 13 days have been kind of extreme. I mean, 12 of the last 13 days have been inflows, and the total inflows are just shy of $5 billion. So we're at like $4.7, $4.8 billion that have come in just over the last 13 trading days. So I think some of this is momentum chasing. Obviously, as price runs up, some of this has relation to do with the Trump odds of victory. People are, I think that a Trump victory would be good for Bitcoin. I don't know exactly what's causing it, but there's a lot of demand coming into these ETFs.
So a Trump victory is being priced in. Of course, that's not guaranteed. This is just what the market thinks. And it's interesting that Ethereum, at least institutionally, isn't seeing this same sort of demand, at least buying through the ETFs. But why?
Because the standout you've seen between Bitcoin and Ethereum has been pretty significant here. Is it because Bitcoin alone is part of the Trump trade?
Honestly, no, it's definitely not that. So it can't just be Trump, because in my mind, Ethereum might actually benefit more potentially from Trump victory. You can make that argument, right? But Ethereum ETFs as a whole just are not seeing the same level of interest. I mean, you talked about 23 billion since those things launched in January. Ethereum ETFs launched in July, and technically they have a net outflow of $500 million. So the demand is just not there on the Ethereum side of things. There's a lot. I could sit here and talk for this entire segment about why I think that is, but some of it just has to do with Ethereum being somewhat more complex. People understand Bitcoin a lot easier, right? It's just digital gold, digital store of value. It's a bet against currency debasement, all of these different things. And then you look at Ethereum, and is it, a tokenization platform, a digital app platform? Who knows? There's a whole bunch of ways you could describe it. And it's just, I think investors just aren't ready and fully equipped to understand what's going on there. And Bitcoin is one of one as far as most people are concerned.
And this brings us to the economy's dirty little secret. Why U.S. government bonds, 10-year yield, why they're going up.
And forget about the stock market. The smart money is in the bond market.
The bond market's going up because people don't trust this economy in the short term. And also Bitcoin and gold are going up because no matter which U.S. presidential candidate is elected in a few days, none of them has really talked about decreasing the amount of crippling debt the U.S. is under.
Gold, probably Bitcoin as well, have further to go because we just don't have a plan as a country to deal with this 35 trillion in debt and growing. And we're listening to both candidates, and I haven't heard any talk about any kind of reduction in spending. There is no plan. And forget about the stock market. The smart money is in the bond market. So here we had the Fed cut rates 50 basis points, and everyone said, great, here we go. And what happened? In the next month, the 10-year Treasury yield rose 50 basis points. And that's telling you that the bond market, and that's the smart money, that's institutional money, is concerned. It's not buying in.
And the very last thing I want to share with you on the Anthony Pompliano podcast. By the way, stay tuned. I just was on stage with CZ here in Dubai. Such a great conversation. I want to share with you some of the questions I asked him. But on Pom's podcast, he had the Cantor Fitzgerald CEO, Howard Lutnick, by the way, also one of the major contributors to Trump, how he has already accumulated hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in exposure to Bitcoin. And every time Bitcoin dips, he's not stopping.
I have hundreds of millions of dollars.
Okay.
Okay. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars exposure to Bitcoin. And it will be billions.
I was going to say, so next year when you come back.
Yeah, but you remember that model I told you? So if every time Bitcoin dips, I'm going to be the buyer. Right?
Trust me, I know why you're doing the lending.
It's all coming. You're figuring it out.
Listen, you don't have to explain that one around here.
So yeah, I got the 50% Bitcoin. I got the Bitcoin lending. But basically, what you're going to see is Cantor Fitzgerald is going to be the sponsor of Bitcoin into traditional finance. Mm-hmm. And so we will be the leader of it. And I'll pull out this podcast in years to come and say, see, I told you, because no one's going to remember.
Of course.
Right. But all the banks, after we do it and show people how to do it right, they'll all copy.
Mm-hmm.
And so the asset of Bitcoin will just, as it becomes more accepted, it will become more valuable. And the whole Bitcoin nation should just call it a commodity, never a currency.
Mm-hmm.
Just call it a commodity. Because if it's a currency, you're attacking the politicians of the country,
mm-hmm.
right? You're trying to replace my currency with yours.
Mm-hmm.
But if you say, hey, I'm just oil, I'm just gold,
mm-hmm.
I'm just a commodity, leave me be, right? Then they'll leave you be. And that is true. And it will be why Bitcoin, which is rare and is special, will become ever more rare, as we both know, mm-hmm. ever more valuable over time.
We are not going to see less of this over the next 5-10 years. We're going to see more billionaires and multimillionaires like this.
Look, I think this is the best single time to invest in Bitcoin from a risk-adjusted perspective.
Even ETF expert and friend of the channel, Matt Hogan, explains.
All of the major existential risks of Bitcoin have been washed away. We have an ETF, we have institutions, they are coming into the space. The biggest catalyst is that move of institutional adoption. We're seeing that accelerate. We saw $800 million in ETF flows yesterday alone. This is a tidal wave of institutional assets moving into the space. There's a fixed supply, and from my perspective, that means higher prices.
By the way, if you've watched thus far in today's video, click subscribe. We're so close to 1.5 million subscribers. Why you should do it is because we drop a video every single day, keeping you informed about cryptocurrency. And I know our schedule for posting has been a little wacky this last week. Again, it's because my brother and I are in Dubai. I sat down with CZ, his very first interview post-prison, and asked the tough questions.
The guards did ask you for altcoin picks. Actually, I did have a couple of guards recognize me and then ask me, like, what coin should I buy? I'm like, I better not pick the wrong coin. No, I told them, look, I'm inside. I don't have any access to information, right? So there's no internet. All my information is through like some limited length messages my friends or family send me. And we don't talk about crypto. So I did get a few guys ask. I did get a few guards ask me that. I did make a couple of friends who I still keep in touch with.
But seriously, CZ was such a great sport on his first interview back, and it went so great. I'm gonna get this footage. I'm gonna post it on the channel, so stay tuned. But we did talk about Giggle Academy, his new venture, what's next for him, what's his affiliation now with Binance, his thoughts on crypto and Bitcoin into next year, everything. So cool, like all we see tomorrow.